What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 12 of Liquid Life. Today we are joined by Parker Day, amazing LA-based photographer, artist, mother, and interested person in the divine and spiritual journey. Parker and I connected on Instagram a number of months ago through our mutual art connections, and I received a message from her, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago or so, talking about this new project she's been working on called God Is, I Am. Am I correct in that?
It's a working title.
Okay, working title. And that kind of sparked our conversation, and we're doing a shoot after this. And so I will be posting that project down below, but I'm so grateful and excited to have Parker on the show today. And we're going to be talking about spirituality, her journey, motherhood, fashion, art, and I guess just generally humanity per se. And so I'm so excited and grateful to have you on the show today.
I'm stoked to be here. And I'm parched. Please moisten me, educate me.
Amazing. We can get right off the jump. Today, our first water is Cascade Mountain. This is from Oregon. And so this is a lowered...
Bubbly.
Let's just say it's excited to be on the show today. All right, so I'll pour you a little bit. I know I'm super thirsty today also.
I see you have your particle-o-meter here.
You know we keep that TDS-o-meter on me. And one day we'll be designing an even fancier version of it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ah.
Oh, that has nice mouthfeel.
It has a good mouthfeel. Okay, so what kind of water do you like? What's your kind of starting point there? What do you think about water, etc.?
So at home, my husband is tricked out our under the kitchen sink filtration system. So our water has nothing in it, but just pure H2O, which I know isn't ideal. It would be good to have the minerals and all that. But, in terms of transforming LA tap water,
yes,
it's pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, LA tap water, because all tap water comes from Mother Earth from some point or some capacity in some way. When we think about Los Angeles, the LA tap water is not coming from any natural water source anywhere close. I actually just did a lot of research and watched a bunch of videos on the New York City tap water supply and how it travels from the Catskill Mountains all the way down to New York City. And it's pretty incredible. The main issue, I'll be doing a video about this at some point in the future, is the overchlorination of the water and the fluoridation of the water.
Yes.
And so you're right about the minerals. You have to have minerals in your water in order to actually be hydrated, because those are the electrolytes that send electrical signals through your body to be able to use it. So drinking completely reverse osmosis water that has nothing in it except H2O will actually dehydrate you in the long run. It's great for a short-term detox. So you just want to make sure to be, usually we get these electrolytes and minerals through food, but less and less so these days, right? From over farming and GMOs, et cetera. So we had a reverse osmosis system here, and then Jacqueline within the first day was like, absolutely not. This is not working for me. I feel tired, I feel weak, my bones are hurting. And so I'm curious, through our conversation, what happens when you start supplementing with some high density mineral water, or maybe even spring water, or even electrolyte powder, right? In addition to that. But as far as showering and bathing in the water goes, it's way better to have that stripped from all of the overchlorination and fluoridation and all these other chemicals that are byproducts of that chlorination chemical process. So there's the quick recap of LA tap water.
Yeah, so I'm pregnant with my second baby now. I'm 4.5 months. Just starting to get a little round. So with my first pregnancy, in the first trimester, I had tons of food aversions. But what was most tragic was my aversion to our water. And this was at our old house, where our only filtration of mid-city LA tap water was in our fridge, and whatever crap little filter was in there. And I thought the water just tasted so offensive. It was viscerally and morally offensive. I don't know how to describe it. I just I need to drink water, but oh, this is so painful. I don't know why, like maybe the chlorine or something, but I was just like, stay away.
Well, our body knows, right? You're feeling that you're intuitive in your body's visceral reaction to not liking that water.
It smelled bad, and my husband would be like, it doesn't smell like anything. He was like, no, it smells horrible, you don't understand. It's wild.
Well, you were right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, if you look at the LA County Water Report and what is actually in the water, it's pretty insane, first and foremost. Secondly, those water filters that are on most fridges don't do anything and sometimes can actually contribute to more bacterial growth, right?
I think so. Yeah. There was like a funky
they get funky.
undertone. Yeah.
It's like kefir kombucha coming out of your refrigerator, but water. There are some good home filtration systems. For me, I'm always about living water, right? I want water that has been touched and treated by humans the least amount as possible, coming from Pachamama and getting those natural minerals and having UV light sterilization and ozonation, these things that don't alter the mineral composition, but get rid of the viruses, bacteria, parasites in the water, because those are the things that really can make you sick. And so this water, all these waters on here are living waters, and they're all in glass. They're not getting the microplastics or aluminum leaching in here. But, of course, with any water, Mother Earth, depending on the geological region and the hydrogeology and the rock structures and where this water is coming from, how deep, et cetera, there's naturally occurring fluoride. But the difference between naturally occurring fluoride, which is calcium fluorides, the fluoride molecule binds to the calcium and it's less bioavailable in your body. Low levels of fluoride are good for your teeth, your bones. It's an essential mineral, but with LA tap water, New York tap water, they're adding fluorosilicic acid, which is this chemical byproduct basically of industrial manufacturing that these people have figured out a way to sell back to the cities and make money off a waste product. And this is extremely bioavailable, meaning it gets absorbed in your body and it doesn't bind to the calcium. And fluoride will calcify your pineal gland.
Yes. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the calcification of the pineal gland and the pineal gland in general?
Yeah.
Like, is this real? Does it change your experience of life? Because, I remember first hearing about that many years ago, and I was like skeptical. Like, is this just like some pseudoscience I found on the internet? But I think it's real, partly because like a lot of my spiritual practice now is centered on chakra meditation.
Yes.
And particularly focusing on the third eye. And I do experience an elevation of consciousness through bringing energy to that center. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, 100%. It is very common throughout many different religions and spiritual practices to focus on the third eye. This is our intuition. This is our kind of God eye. And it naturally produces, the pineal gland naturally produces DMT, which is the God molecule.
Yeah.
Right. So when people do ayahuasca or DMT, they get one with God and the universe, right? This is naturally produced in our dreams. And so 5 years ago, the tinfoil hat was like, there's fluoride in the water, it's making you dumb and controllable. But now more and more research is coming out. That's a main cultural conversation now in the political sphere as well. Why are we adding fluoride to the water? The capitalist perspective is, people are being able to make money off a waste byproduct, and, it's basically turning costs into profits. I have a deeper kind of conspiratorial thought that it is to control populations and to get us further away with who we really are.
I'm definitely more on that side now. It just kind of makes...
And multiple things can be true at the same time, but you look at the resolutions and why local communities are still voting to approve fluoridation to the water. It's absolutely crazy to me. Why are we adding chemicals to our water? They don't care about your teeth and bones that much. There's no way that is the reality of it. As far as the third eye goes, the great thing is there's a solution. You can decalcify your pineal gland, right? And it's tamarind. This is
Okay, tell me more. This is news.
Yeah, so you can just buy tamarind, make a tea, make a brew. You can take tamarind supplements, but this naturally decals. Yes, yes. With every problem, there's a solution. And multiple things can be true at the same time. So
like the tamarind pods?
Yeah, you can buy tamarind pods and, go that route. You can also do supplements. There's many ways to ingest tamarind. In many South American cultures, tamarind is a very popular ingredient in food and candy too. So we don't get as much of that in the United States cooking or culinary experiences or our palates.
Yeah.
But it's tamarind. That's the key to decalcifying the pineal gland.
I love that. That is a hot tip.
Hot tip.
Yeah.
And there's some other things you can do, but tamarind is what I do personally. Do a little
Have you experienced a shift in your consciousness?
I wouldn't say so. I think with things like this, they're much more subtle, and I think that's why it becomes harder to kind of delineate, because your pineal gland's not going to get calcified. You drink tap water once. It's a slow thing over time. And same with the poisons that we're eating every day in our food, right? And so it's all about making one small adjustment that you're doing on a daily basis that has these long-term effects. Getting sober for me, 10 years ago, right? Even people who are just drinking one drink a day over the course of 365 days, that's 365 drinks, and alcohol is a poison, right? It has some benefits, but it also has a lot of consequences. And so, it's a long story short, not an intense detox notice or process from the tamarind in particular, but over time, I'm sure it makes a difference.
Yeah, I think anything truly worthwhile in life does take some commitment and effort, and to see massive results takes time. And then you look back on your life and you're like, wow, I'm like a new person. How did I get here? Getting sober. I mean, I imagine looking back on your life is like, what was that guy doing? So it's, incremental changes transform your life and the world.
Amen to that. Yeah. And I feel like I've been talking the whole episode, but sorry. The TDS on this was 117. Okay. So that's a lower TDS for a living water. So it's a good everyday type of water. There's minerals in it, but it's not at the mineral level, which is 250 milligrams or higher, and you're getting higher mineral content. So this is a good everyday kind of drinking water. And the next one we'll drink, Saratoga, is from upstate New York, like we just mentioned.
Like the blue.
Very bubbly.
Blue.
My problem with this dark blue water is I notice it makes the water more acidic, actually, which is sad because it's so beautiful.
Huh.
From all the waters I've tested. Yeah, light affects the water.
Interesting.
And what it's stored in, especially with glass.
Huh. So I guess the blue is blocking different wavelengths of light, and then interesting.
I think that's part of it, and I think also the mineral composition is just naturally more acidic for this water, kind of like the first one as well. But cheers to this.
Cheers.
And so you kind of mentioned this slow growth, the third eye meditation. I want to hear a bit more about your spiritual journey and how you came to this physical embodiment of it, which is the new Instagram account that we kind of connected about. And you mentioned to me that you have a child who's 2 years old, postpartum depression. We just had a kid, and our experiences are kind of similar, but you're a few years ahead. We've got another one on the way.
Yeah.
Yay. So I would love to hear about how that experience kind of led you to this point you're at today.
Yeah. So looking back, I had kind of been dabbling in a very peripheral way in spirituality, going back to probably 13 years ago or so. Remember, around the time I met my husband. So it was a time of a lot of change for me, and it was kind of having these sort of revelatory experiences, but that were so subtle that I kind of brushed them off. And I was getting into reading the Four Agreements and stuff like that, sort of in the self-help context, and some Thich Nhat Hanh, and it was just starting to crack me open a little bit. And then in my art that I've been doing, very much in the same style for the past 10 years or so, I was exploring identity, particularly how the egoic identity is formed, performed, and perceived. Because I had this intuition that there's something underlying all of these different egoic identities. And not just within one lifetime, one person's lifetime, but across all persons, all lifetimes. And I came to making that work because I wanted to understand myself, really. Like, then that's a great driver for making art, is understanding yourself and the world you find yourself in. And I realized, like, I had been just going in and out of these different, like, subcultures and identities as long as I could remember. And I always thought I could find the one true identity and the one true, like, group of friends, and then I'd be happy. And that's a lie. You're not gonna put on the right costume and then you'll just be, like, set. And I thought, like, I'd look at other people like, oh, like, they have the same style, like, their whole lives, and they look so cool and they look so happy. But that's not, the happiness is an inside job, and it's not found in the outer expressions of self. And so what I had been trying to find was the underlying source of us all. And so that is God, you know. So when having my child and going through this experience of life coming into the world through me, really precipitated a profound ego death. And it was really fucking upsetting and, like, crazy making. And I didn't realize, like, how much ego I had, like, how heavy the weight of ego was and how identified I was with this kind of self that I had constructed, until, because you have a baby, and whatever you want to do, or, like, you think you're gonna do, or sleep you're gonna get, or whatever, just goes right out the window as soon as they cry, right? Like, it doesn't care. The baby doesn't care that you haven't showered in, like, 72 hours and you're starving and you haven't slept. Like, no, like, the baby needs care. And your little desires don't fucking matter. So I had a lot of resistance. So it's like, well, wait, I'm not going to be able to be like the artist and the persona that I had been. And then it wasn't until I, like, reached this point of surrender that things started to open up. And the surrendering brought me to seek God and seek relationship with God.
Wow. Incredible. Thank you for that. Yeah. That was so real. And it is so real. And that ego death, that's everything.
Yeah.
And it has to happen on a daily basis.
I die daily.
Dying daily.
Yeah.
And so what was that period of postpartum depression? Was it really due to that ego death and losing that identity, that sense of self, that sense of kind of security in what previously you found your community, your identity in?
Yeah. I think it's, like, so multifaceted, you know, like, having a kid also brought up kind of my issues with my mom, who had passed away in 2020, and I hadn't really processed that grief. And also my relationship with her was very complicated because she had like some mental instability issues. There was just a lot.
I hear you on that.
Okay, yeah.
Heard.
Yeah.
And usually the daughter-mother relationship is much more challenging than, let's say, the mother-son relationship. And same goes with the inverse. The father-son relationship is usually more complicated, and of course there's variation, but in becoming a mother, I mean, of course, in addition to the insane amount of hormones that happen during birth, after birth, etc., new human to take care of, like for us it was like, is he going to just explode? Like, what are we doing? Why like we're not prepared, and kind of going through that initiation as well. But what does that healing process kind of look like, that generational trauma that you are seeming like you're kind of addressing and healing through your spiritual journey, through having a child, through having another child? What does that kind of feel like and look like in your life?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question because, I think the healing came through, in kind of like the low points, just having this kind of like realization, like, I need God. I don't know where that came from, but like it came.
Interesting.
It came from God. Duh. but thankfully I was like, okay, and message received, and started looking for like community and resources, and I found the Self-Realization Fellowship and the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and his meditation techniques, and that's really what started turning things around for me. And his meditation techniques also have to bring you to prayer. And I had never allowed myself to pray before because I wasn't raised with God. I wasn't raised with religion, or spirituality in any context, really. So I felt corny as fuck trying to pray for the first time, even just in my head. I was like, this sounds dumb and weird, but I stuck with it. And after meditating, your mind quiets and you get into that space of communion, and that's when prayer can arise and really affect change in the mind and the ego structures. So my prayer then and now is to the mother, to the Divine Mother, and for her to express through me as love, unconditional love. And that means loving my Earth Mother. That means loving the struggles of life. That means not pushing anything out. That's what unconditional love is, I think, is resisting nothing. So, through this, I call it like radical non-resistance, I started to heal. So all the unwanted parts of myself, all the fears that would come up that like I wanted to push away, like when I started to open to them with unconditional love, then I started to heal. And it's a day-by-day process.
Amen to that. Hour by hour, minute by minute, especially with children.
Oh my God, so much unconditional love. Kids are crazy.
And we we're 2 months in right now, and it's like, I already want to do it again. I don't know if that's the addict in me. I've heard that one is a lot, but the second one, like really, that's the game changer. It becomes very, very real then.
I'll give you a trip report.
Thank you.
In a few months.
Thank you. I think one thing you just mentioned that really, something I've been thinking about as well, is how in Christianity and a number of other Western religions, we really think of God in more of a divine masculine, Father God. One thing I feel like other religions, I know you practice Hinduism in a particular sect or style. I don't know the direct term, and I'm interested to hear more about that. But thinking about God as the divine feminine as well, and that unconditional love. For me, my challenge, the generational lineage and healing that has to happen in my lifetime is with my father. And so my relationship with the divine mother, God, is this, unconditional loving, providing force, is much easier for me to accept than the father God, right? And what that provision, what that divine masculine looks like in my life, and how to practice that, and how to be in intimacy and relationship with this higher power that is the divine masculine side of God is been something I've been really thinking about and trying to work on and learn. And that happens through relation with other men in this physical realm, right? And learning and connecting and becoming intimate with them in those relationships, and there's healing in that. But it's been a whole new kind of journey becoming a father myself, and having more empathy and intimacy with my lineage and the men that have come before me, but also actively attempting to not make similar decisions where I see that they are no longer serving us. And it's freaking hard. It is very, very challenging. And it's also a beautiful opportunity to try and do something different and be someone else. And having all of this experience and I don't want to say knowledge per se, but in a sense, understanding and direction and spiritual guidance and real, great direction and supervision per se, to be able to kind of translate this into the next generation.
Yeah.
So it's also interesting to me that you are from California, right?
Yeah.
And you weren't raised in any sort of spiritual household, and you just got kind of this download one day, go down this spiritual rabbit hole and see where it ends up. And how did you kind of come to Hinduism?
Intellectually, I think, just through reading. Maybe it was a Ramana Maharshi book that I first got. It's I can't even pinpoint it, but something about Advaita Vedanta, which is Hindu non-dualism, just really spoke to me. It's just there's something here. My gut was telling me there's something here. My mind is I don't know, this is weird. But my gut, my heart was no, there's something here, keep going. Are you familiar with the Upanishads?
I am not.
Okay, so
put me on.
I'll put you on game. So Vedanta is the teachings that are the culmination of the Vedas being very, very long, expansive bodies of scriptures, right?
The Vedic texts, is this the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Vedanta is kind of the essence, right? And the Upanishads are the teaching of Vedanta, right? They're these stories that really encapsulate the spiritual wisdom from the Vedas. So they're just beautiful little stories. They're my bedtime stories. Most nights I just read a little bit just on Kindle, nothing crazy, just read a little bit. And in doing that, so many nights over, years now, it's just really seeped into my soul, and I'm just washed through every cell. And it's the thrust is that God is one, God is all, and the apparent world is illusory, they say. And what that means is that everything is dependent on the one God, that substratum of all that is. And that is the same as consciousness or awareness. Consciousness is kind of a tricky word in our language because we think of like conscious of an object, which could even be like a thought, that's like a mental object, or a sensation, that's an object of consciousness. But consciousness, sometimes better to say awareness, because it's just like that bare capacity to experience, which is present in waking, in dreaming, in deep sleep, when you're under anesthesia. That consciousness is the same throughout. So Vedanta says you are that. What you essentially are is that, and so is everyone else. And everything that is comes from that, is not separate from it. So God is infinite because nothing is apart from God.
Incredible.
So hopefully I put that in a nutshell. It's like
Totally
the hardest thing to
when I first got sober, one of my second AA sponsor gave me this CD. We had CD players in cars, even 10, 11 years ago. But I would listen to it. This guy named Gary, I don't know exactly what it's called or his name, is kind of this like object that entered my life, but his whole thing was more of a Christian bend to it, but that self doesn't actually exist. And through my research of Hinduism just this morning with AI, that's what it was all about, as far as this what you're talking about right now, self versus God, and really, in a way, kind of coming back to water, thinking about just us being a wave in the ocean or a drop of water in the ocean, but we're still of the ocean. We're just an expression as that wave comes to surface, but it goes back into everything that is.
That's right. It's never separate from,
And that's really hard for, I feel like, people in creative industries to wrap our head around. We come back to the ego death thing. It's my art, it's my creation, this is my image, these are my artworks, these are my sales, I show at this gallery, I'm collected by this institution, I have this many Instagram followers, my art sells for this much money. And we have to exist in this physical realm, and all of those things are good and well, but when those things become the identity, then it separates us further from who we truly are, and who we truly are is the ocean. And all these little waves, especially in a place like Los Angeles or New York, it's so easy to get caught into all those high points on that wave, and it's like, I'm this, I'm this, I am this, and this provides me love, this provides me safety, this provides me security, this provides me with identity, and really it's all wrapped into that ego, which then leads to the ego death eventually, right?
If you're lucky, but in the most tragic way too.
But a lot of times, you see these people and they're involved in all these other crazy things, and you're like, that person, right? And then they get canceled, but the cancel is, in a way, a contemporary version of ego death. But even if you have an ego death, you're still presented on a day-to-day basis of do I continue dying daily to whatever the next path is, or do I kind of continue on, being the wave?
Yeah, and I said if you're lucky, you have the ego.
It's true though.
Yeah, but some people seem to do a very good job just being happy little wave throughout their life, and maybe they're just chilling as the little waves.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, right. It's just it's really through periods of suffering that have cracked me open. I think that's a pretty common story. So some people can coast.
So just drink enough tap water. Yeah. And just get as much fluorosilicic acid, calcify that pineal gland as much as you can, and then just live life. I'm jealous of people who I perceive to kind of have that as their life, but again, it's my perception of that. That's probably not the reality.
Exactly.
And I think part of the learning I've been realizing is like I didn't feel safe and secure and provided for with that divine masculine in my childhood and as a baby in many ways. And so I became an artist. I want press. I want this. I want to have my work selling for $1 million because there's something in me that feels like I lack that, which I know the solution is God and intimacy with God and others through that to become that ocean and these other things, these physical realm goals and desires and objectives. Those are all very temporary fixes for a much more spiritual solution. And like, I'm fully aware of that, but also I still decide to kind of chase those things. And it's really challenging to be like, how do I function in this physical realm with these desires, these things I want, I think I need, but knowing that at the end of the day, that's not actually the truth. That's not actually the reality. And that separation actually ends up becoming an asset and value in that realization. But that's one thing that I've been really thinking about and trying to channel and embody. Much easier said than done.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you relate to that in many ways as a very successful artist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I really relate to what you're saying because for so long, like I chased success and markers of success, and like from high to high, and you know, like I have substance abuse in my past, and it's like the same kind of thing. It's like you're just chasing that dragon, right? And because it's like you want that to fill you up, fill up that void. Like I used to think it was a void for love, or you know, now I think it's an imagined separation from God. Yeah, I don't know where I was going, but like I feel you.
The proverbial hole in the soul. Like
Yeah.
I want to fill it with all these physical realm of things that, you know, society and culture has told me to make a reality. And the Christian kind of doctrine, the devil, Satan, is the master of the air, and of the air biblically translated more to of this physical realm, this fifth earthly dimension, right? And these things that I think are going to make me happy, money, fame, success, the right place to live in, even things that society tells us are good, like if I have enough kids, I'll be happy. If I have the right job, if I drink the right water, I'll be okay.
Yes.
You know? And sure, like all those things are good and well, and success and money and fame aren't inherently bad things, but it's coming back to the reality, the knowing that like we are not actually of this air. We're here in this earthly dimension, in my opinion, to learn. And there are lessons that our souls are here specifically to learn. There's people that come into our lives at certain points to learn those lessons. We are taught by our parents, and those challenging circumstances often are lessons that we have to learn. And you know, not all lessons are comfortable. And then our children become our greatest teachers. And you know, we get to a full circle moment with the conversation. It's like, man, what are we gonna do to actually like function in this day-to-day life, knowing all of this stuff? But here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of. So I love Sri Ramakrishna, and there's the Vedanta Society in Hollywood, which is of the Ramakrishna's lineage. And in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he says again and again, like, I am the machine, Lord, thou art the operator. Okay, so, you know, we may have all our little plans,
Yes.
right? And like our schemes of name and fame, but really it's God who's working through us. But it's like, it's so hard to wrap your mind around that, because we feel we have free will. We feel we're doing things and we need to go places and get shit done, right? Make things happen. And I imagine, especially being a man too, and like a family man, you got to provide. And,
Yeah, I'm a good old family man.
Yeah, right, from Texas. So, and it's something that
It's real.
I grapple with a lot. This like, again, it's like my gut is like, yes, I really do believe that God is in control. But then I'm like, but I mean, I still gotta like, post on Instagram and get another art show going. And so I asked this monk one time after a service about free will. I asked him, in light of Sri Ramakrishna's statement, I am the machine, Lord, thou art the operator. How are we to consider free will? And he said, he got like this little sparkle in his eyes. And he said, free will, that's part of the machinery. And I could not accept what he was saying in the moment. I was like, but how am I supposed to know when it's like my will versus God's will? And, which showed like my ignorance of what he was trying to communicate. And then I don't know what he said. I kind of got lost. But like, oh my God, I think about that all the time. Because like, well, wait, if free will is part of the machinery, like we're not actually in control at all. It's all God. But yeah, I don't know.
Fascinating.
Right?
It's and I think the cool thing is like that we're even having this conversation, and thank you for sharing all this new spiritual information with me. This is why I started this podcast. Yeah, to explore water, but that's more of a physical realm thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's really the deeper side of it, right?
Well, the greatest solvent, right?
Cheers.
So, and God dissolves ego. We dissolve into that.
Wow. Okay. Solvent, usually think is a negative thing.
Oh no.
But now I'm like connecting it to solve, like the solution.
Yeah. Yeah, sit with that. Dissolve into that.
I'm still trying to sit with the machinery. I'm like,
I know.
I'm like, am I the machine?
Right?
Well, that's so awesome. And I'm just like running through all these prayers and all these spiritual practices that I got in AA before I kind of stepped more into the Christian mysticism over the past 3 years or so, and thinking about the prayers that were taught in there. God, I offer myself to do and build with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Well, how do I delineate my will from God's will? Page 86 through 88, and it's coming back to intuition, and we are here, we exist, we are human, have the human condition, this is part of it, and it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be human. It's okay to want those things. And at the same time, because two things can be true at once, is it's okay, but also that isn't the solution. That's not it. And I think it's being able to realize both those things, because I'm such a person of extremes. As you're saying that, I'm like, all right, I have to go be a monk. I'm shaving my head. I'm giving up, But that's not the reality of my situation, and where my lessons are to be learned. And through the podcast, being able to have conversation and talk these things out, that is what I'm much more interested, rather than, oh, this is the one and only solution, and accept it, or don't. And so I love the similarities between a lot of these spiritual practices.
Absolutely. I want to hear about your spiritual practices and how you relate to God. And you mentioned being a Christian mystic.
Yeah.
Which coming here, I was like, I want to find out what's his deal?
Yeah, what's he got going on over there?
But I was like, he's a Christian mystic. That's just the vibe I got from you. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. let's crack the next bottle of water.
yeah.
Then we'll talk about Christian mysticism. So this TDS is about 56, which is lower than this first one. I should have had this one switched around because typically we do higher TDS, but the ways of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
This Saratoga water, did you see all the viral content coming out with Saratoga?
No.
The dude who's using this to do his morning face washes in the ice bath, his name's Ashton Hall.
Oh, I have seen those videos.
Ashton, we need you on the podcast. Show us, please. I've been so enjoying it, but their stock skyrocketed like 500% after his videos started to go viral. So, but they're now sold in Costco, so it's like less of a hard exclusive water to get. But shout out to Saratoga water. I'm here for glass bottles, living water, becoming more part of the cultural conversation. It's amazing. And this water is, I think, Lassen's. Do you like Lassen's? I like Lassen's.
I never go there.
It's pretty cool. They have some really awesome stuff. And this is, I think, their in-house brand, Cadia, Italian mineral water. So most retailers, grocers have their own version of a Perrier Pellegrino these days in glass. It's amazing. They're importing this all the way from Italy, bottled in Italy, and somehow selling it for less than $3 for a liter. So I don't know how the heck they're making money on it, but this is my first time trying this water, so I'm stoked on this. And I have no idea what the TDS level, 350 milligrams per liter. That's very common for the Pellegrino Perrier style Italian mineral water.
That's if I'm gonna go to a store and purchase water.
Pellegrino?
Yeah.
Problem with Pellegrino is they're owned by Nestle, and they use graphene oxide to filter their water rather than activated carbon. So you can reactivate the graphene in the Pellegrino. It's insane. I have this video. They've tried to ban it all over social media, but we reposted it and did a whole video about graphene oxide. So it's like literally graphite from pencils, using that as a filtration system to filter out certain heavy metals, but it's cheaper in the long run than using activated carbon. Nestle, huge water company, they're selling Pellegrinos around the world. So that's my problem with Pellegrino. Their TDS is about 850, so significantly higher than this. I drank a Pellegrino last week because I found some, you buy it at Costco, right? It's been in our house for 3 years, and I needed a high calcium level mineral water, and so I busted out a Pellegrino. So shout out to Pellegrino. I like the blue and the red and the green.
Yes.
It's a vibe. Feels like a Wes Anderson water.
Yes.
So let's test the TDS of this. Cheers. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, let's see how close they are. 253, low 200s.
Yeah, that's my favorite by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of a high mineral content water. So this is technically kind of right on the line of a mineral water, testing about 250. Basically impossible to get it to read one number since the carbonation levels, but I'm excited to try it.
It's not aggressively bubbly.
Oh, it's a good water.
Yeah. It's nice for just drinking just straight up.
Yeah, I like having one of these kind of Italian lower mineral content sparkling waters just every day or every other day as a enjoyable, good quality drinking water that's not too high in minerals.
I've started making my own kombucha, and it's like not super effervescent upon first fermentation. So I'll make like a kombucha spritzer with Topo Chico because it's like so aggressively bubbly.
Super.
Yeah, so just a little splash and some lime. It's quite nice.
Well, we are hoping to give you an even better option to Topo Chico.
Ooh, hook it
More
up.
coming soon on that. The problem with Topo Chico is it's from Monterrey, Mexico, and it has the highest PFAS, which are forever chemicals, out of any premium water.
Really?
Yes. So they were constantly testing at 9.1 parts per billion about 5 years ago. Then they, I started adding some sort of filtration process to the water and got that down by half, basically, to around 4. Not parts per billion, parts per trillion even. It's a very small number, but those PFAS, and the whole idea of taking a Mexican water where you're not allowed to, drink the water if you're visiting there, and now we're paying premium water prices for, you can't, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that water is, I'm from Texas. I love the cult following of Topo Chico. I was drinking Topo Chico before Coca-Cola even bought them in 2017 for $220 million. Topo Chico is now worth $2 to $4.2 billion. They sell about 1.5 billion 12-ounce glass bottles a year.
I love that you just have like stats.
We got stats. At the same time, it's very acidic, and the PFAS thing, and the acidity isn't about health for me, it's about taste. If there's a Topo Chico around, I'll still drink it, I'm not gonna lie. But for us, it's all about pushing the ball forward, and we were hoping to provide an alternative to that Topo Chico for your kombucha.
All right,
that is better mineral composition and no PFAS in there.
Sounds great.
But at the same time, like, yeah, I love the aggressive bubbles. Some people don't like the aggressive bubbles.
It has a place.
I love kombucha too.
Yeah.
It's very, very healthy.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so easy to make. I should have brought you a SCOBY.
Oh, brought me a SCOBY. Yeah. So Scottish.
Here's some bacteria and yeast, friend. I've just
made. We like that. Jacqueline was making one, but it got a little too wild. I think she like even transported it from Houston to Los Angeles. We brought these in a suitcase.
Yeah, you can do anything to those.
We were like this in Texas. Like, we were like this in spirituality and health and wellness before we moved to LA. So it's really, it's so funny. And kind of seeing this health and wellness thing. And it's very different here than we were just in Austin filming some podcasts and delivering a painting to a client. And like, that city is just full health. If you think LA is health and wellness, Austin is just like...
Really?
It's like overwhelming. I'm like, I want to go eat McDonald's after being here for 24 hours because I feel like I'm just overwhelmed by, and like my Instagram on the water thing is just like health and wellness. You can't do this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed with how much information is out there and how everything seems like a poison. And then get to the point where I'm like, I guess I'm going to be drinking tap water as a rebellion.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. So, anyway, back to Christian mysticism.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything, and like I'm not qualified to talk about any of this.
That's a good place to be,
Okay,
honestly.
great.
So please speak from the heart.
And everyone, it's, you know, people have been fighting wars and killing each other over religion for so many years and weaponized spirituality. And I had this project called Repurposed Religion that kind of led me down all these other new rabbit holes that, you know, were kind of how I was raised in many ways. And it's all about the conversation. It's not about the answer for me. Mm-hmm. Today, I actually just ordered a Bible that is the most accurate translation from Aramaic, which is what the language Jesus, whose name was Yeshua, spoke, right? And so the Bible was an oral, tale, basically, an oral tradition that then got written down and has been translated, and many books have been taken out of the Bible. The Book of Enoch is probably the most popular one by more Western traditions because religion is all about control, in my humble opinion. And, you know, it historically has, and a lot of people have died and been killed over these things. But at the same time, like, I do believe in God. I believe in oneness. I believe in love. I believe in humanity. I believe in these positive things, this light, and religion can be a way to get into that as someone who comes to spirituality from AA, which is so open-ended. You come up with your own God of your own understanding, and that was so helpful for me in my spiritual walk, and it still is in many ways. But allowing myself to research and delve into and listen to things that I may not fully agree with that are really challenging for me also is just part of the growth, and like allowing myself to be challenged and not agree with something, but take what I resonate with at that moment and then leave the rest. And so kind of that programming has allowed me to come back to Christianity, which I had a major resentment towards growing up. Not for any really good reasons other than I felt like I was forced into it. And I've always wanted to be punk rock. I want to do what I'm not supposed to do. Hence, God is the new punk rock.
I love it.
So that's kind of my walk recently. So I ordered that Aramaic Bible right before you came in. Then I ordered the Ethiopian Bible, which has 88 books that were banned or removed intentionally by many churches and religions as the Christian faith moved west. So kind of tapping back into that more Eastern philosophy of Yeshua's teachings has been really interesting and exciting for me. Like I was reading like the book of Revelation the past few nights just on my, Christian Standard Bible. I'm like, this is the craziest shit in the world. Like you're gonna, I go to church and like he's always, talking down on crystals and astrology and psychics and all of these things in essential oil. Like all of these things are so biblical. And you look at this is the craziest conspiracy stuff I've ever seen, right? So I'm gonna get in so much trouble for everything I just said from all angles, I'm sure.
What?
But
No,
what our first viral clip was me and one of my friends from church, from the men's group, who's a stylist, talking about meeting because he was wearing Rick Owens at church.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And people went crazy. They're like, he's a dark Sith Lord, he's evil, he's satanic, which might be true in some regards. But also, like, I mean, I see that point, but two things can be true at once. Like,
yes.
You can still be fashionable and enjoy Balenciaga. We were talking about this earlier. Like, Baal is Satan. They did a whole campaign about all sorts of really dark shit a couple years ago. And I was working in Milan and Paris with the person who was working for a different fashion company at the time on that project 3 months before it came out. And I got to see the inside scoop of it. I mean, as much as we believe in God and we're working with light, like there are people in creative industries and all sorts of industries who are working with dark energy.
I do believe that more and more. And yeah, it's like, yeah, a lot of stuff that I thought was just like wingnuts on the internet. Kind of like, now that I'm...
Oh yeah.
I think it's so important in life to reject nothing. And when you're exposed to an idea that you would reject, just let it in and explore it, and then you might be surprised. And yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to say too much because it's like...
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to just be open to, like, maybe the thing that sounds crazy actually has some truth to it.
Yes, 100%. And just coming back to the idea that multiple things can be true at the same time. Like, and I also believe that people can be forgiven. I do believe that. I believe that no matter what you've done or who you've been, there is resurrection power, there is life, there is love. It just, I don't know, coming from AA and seeing what my life was like and, having that ego death, that rebirth experience that Christianity is kind of all about, that other spiritual practices are all about, like new life, right? That is possible for not only individuals, but collective levels too. And I think the art world, which is so interesting, is at a point where it's completely collapsed in many ways. And through that collapse, through that death, through the ego death of the art world, there is rebirth. And like you are now part of this new kind of tribe that I feel like I've found throughout not only this city, but other cities in so many unexpected ways, that we've started a ministry called Power Overwhelming Ministries. And we're doing our first performance in September as part of the art fair in Houston. And my part is kind of the repurposed religion part, but other artists who are interested in God being the new punk rock, spirituality, Christianity, mythology, mysticism, other spiritual practices and religions coming together and like making work about these concepts and ideas. And it is the new punk rock. God has always been a word that is, and concept that is not allowed in these highly elite creative spaces, maybe because people who control these industries are kind of working with the dark arts, and they know that good always wins. Good and God are one O away from each other. The devil and evil are one D away from each other. My pastors didn't even know that. And it's like, dude, like we're tapping into something, and good always does win. And it may not look like it in the moment, but God is creativity in its most simple essence. And you got to experience that with giving birth, creating, you are a channel. We are vessels. This is a vessel. And thinking about us as these bottles in many ways.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so exciting that there are more artists who are exploring spirituality and expressing that through their art. And I do feel like we're kind of tapping into something that wants expression, and that's what artists do, right? Is we tap into this kind of like this unconscious, or this something that's just brewing under the surface, and give it expression, bring it to light. And like with what I'm doing now, I'm taking portraits of interesting people and interviewing them about who God is to them and their relationship with God, to just show that there are infinite ways to tap into the source of all, and to make it cool to have these conversations.
I mean, look at us. I mean, 10 years ago, you're like, these people are talking about God, or like, it is not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand the point where it's like, well, you don't need all that. You don't need to wear chrome hearts or, have cool Kiko Kostarinov ASICs. And these people who are making these things probably aren't, on the same wavelength. But I don't know. I think there's something really special at brewing.
I think so. Yeah.
There's a revival, as they might say.
Yeah.
That's the name of my next performance, Revival. For this exact reason, exactly what we're talking about now. And again, it's about those conversations and hopefully providing some solution to people who may have never been exposed or have resistance to, being on this spiritual path.
Yeah. Would you tell me about, like, have you had any experiences that you would call like ego death experiences, or like perception of God or the transcendent, or kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to talk about, but
Yeah. So I think my first ego death experience was really getting sober when I was 19. And that was kind of a process over a couple of months, and working the steps and coming to the third step and having like a real experience with God through that process. And there are times when I'm like really craving like a white light burning bush type of experience. Like, God, show me you're there. And usually when I want that so bad, it's not happening. In a very intense meditation ceremony 2 weeks ago in Austin, I had one of those experiences, but it was not at all what I was looking for. In fact, it was what I was not looking for, which is what I needed to see. And that was a very intense experience where I had the realization I'm not God. And it's less so of like, I'm not the ocean. It's more so like, I'm not the wave in the ocean. The ocean is the ocean, and I'm the ocean. And so saying I'm not God, I think I mean by that, I'm not in control. And kind of delineating and having discernment between being in command of the ship rather than controlling the ship. And allowing the waves to kind of crash in and around me, and to kind of be one of those expressions, but also just accept and know that I am part of the ocean. And so that literally brought me to the child's pose, fetal position, just completely crying. And I want to be in control. I use drugs and alcohol to be in control. I use art to be in control. I use my career to be in control. I use all sorts of things to emotionally regulate and create these kind of systems in place artificially to feel like I'm in control, that I'm safe, that I'm loved, that I'm whole, that I'm okay. And in reality, none of that really makes a huge difference. And it's really challenging to kind of come to terms with that. And also, like, the free will machine monk thought is exactly that. But what does that actually look like? What does that mean? How do I exist? I still need to cook breakfast and feed my kid, And that is it,
That's so powerful. That's it. That's it right there. And yeah, it's, you want these like exotic spiritual experiences, right? But then it's in true surrender that you really do like crack yourself open to the perception of reality, and that's it. That you aren't in control, but you're part of all that is, and not just a part. You are all that is, and so. It's a paradox, which we keep kind of like dancing around these paradoxes. And so you have to kind of surrender to not really being able to make sense of it with your mind.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And not making sense of it, accepting it, but also putting one foot in front of the other, because it got so overwhelming for me with that realization. It took me 3 days to like come to terms with, okay, but that doesn't mean that it's okay to just not do anything.
Bingo. Yes, because I think that's where like a lot of people go back into the perceived safety of perceived control and ego structure, is they think, oh, well, I just do nothing then? I just sit on the couch because I'm not in control, I'm not doing anything? It's like, no, you're still feeding your child, doing your job, but you're not identified as the doer. And that's part of the teaching of Vedanta. You're not the doer.
And it's it's a gift to be human and to like do these things. And do we have free will? Do we not have free will? I mean, that is a very persistent theme throughout all sorts of spiritual practices and religions. I'd like to think I do sometimes, and I'd like to think I don't sometimes, depending on the situation. Speaking of free will, shall we crack open the last water?
Grand finale, let's go.
You want to pass her over to me? This is Aqua Carpatica from the Carpathian Mountains. Shout out to Aqua Carpatica for sending us their mineral water. Thank you so much for giving us a 12-pack of this water. Absolutely beautifully packaged. They have custom kind of a styrofoam for each one of these waters. It came, everything was fantastic. Just the whole unboxing experience of this water was incredible. I love this water. I love the bottle, love the design. I love the cap.
I like the womanly shape of it.
And it's interesting because I called the bottle her, pass her over to me.
Yeah.
It's very Venus de Milo, yeah?
Yeah.
Voila,
Nice
curvaceous. Absolutely snatched,
Yes.
So I'm excited for you to try this water. And this is going to be the highest mineral content water. I haven't actually tested the mineral composition yet. I think it's marketed around 850. Could be wrong on this. It actually doesn't have the TDS level on the back of the bottle.
I wonder why they chose clear glass.
I actually think that water out of clear glass tastes better.
Really?
Green is actually might be number one, but green and clear are kind of the best tasting with how light affects it. Why? What color do you think this should be?
No, I don't know. I was just wondering like how a light alters water.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Light, sunlight, so one of the most historic not filtration per se, but disinfection techniques of water is to leave your water in the sun for 24 hours. And that'll kill parasites, bacteria, viruses. I don't think all of them per se, but UV light sterilization is kind of a manufactured, man-made version of exactly that.
And just like, I know this sounds woo-woo because I have no science to back it up, but I feel just like energetically, emotionally, if you allow sunlight to come into a space, it changes the way it feels.
100%.
Like my husband will leave our blackout curtains drawn in or not drawn, like closed in our bedroom. And I'm like, no. We need full light during the day to cleanse the space.
Yes.
And I really do feel different when I go in there at night if it's had sunlight.
Well, on a molecular level, we are frequency, we are light.
Yeah.
We are light beings. And so some days I'm in there with the blackout curtains, I'm like, keep me in here.
Right, cocooned, wombed.
But yeah, through Liquid Life, Wellness Water, and what we're doing with our water, we're actually going to be doing analytical, scientific data testing on what happens when we pray over water, what happens when we bless water, what happens when we leave water in the light, what happens when we leave water in the sun, under the moon. There's all sorts of ancient traditions of doing exactly those things that we just listed, but actually making videos and content and entertaining people through the science that we're testing and seeing if these things have a direct result in the water. I have a sneaking suspicion they do.
Yes, I love that.
So kind of coming at it from that woo-woo new agey level, but also from a very scientific level, because these things can theoretically be tested through experience and other data points. So
it has less flavor than our Italian friend here.
So you're getting it. And this is the fun thing about trying waters back to back, is you really notice the difference of the water. It's hard to notice the difference, especially if you have other things on your palate before you're drinking the water. Mm-hmm. The reason this doesn't have as much, you say, taste in it, even though this has 650 milligrams per liter, which is almost double that TDS. There's technically more minerals in here, but there's almost no sodium in this water. And so that salt component gives people what they consider taste. And so you'll see waters in the stores that say electrolytes added for taste, but the TDS level of those waters are typically 18 to 50, and they're just nothing more than reverse osmosis, completely purified tap water that they then add a little bit of sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, a little bit of sodium. Sometimes you'll get some calcium and magnesium, but the sodium component really is what our palate picks up on as taste, and that further activates the other minerals that are in the water. So this one is high in bicarbonate, the sodium bicarbonate, and I can pick up on that since I have done this for a little while now. But it's like cooking. You put salt on your food to activate the other flavors, the other spices, the other taste profiles in that dish.
Yeah.
Same thing with water.
Fascinating.
So, and some people, think that sodium is bad. They need a low sodium diet. No, sodium is really the number one thing you need for hydration, because sodium makes your body actually hold on to the water.
Yeah. And being pregnant, I read you're craving sodium, like salty things, because you actually need it. You gotta get water to those cells.
Yep. Huh. So shout out to Aqua Carpatica.
Magnesium is super important.
Yeah, that's the number one thing I look for in a water, and having the right calcium and magnesium ratio is something that most mineral waters don't have. So most mineral waters have let's say 50 milligrams of calcium to 1 milligram of magnesium, but your body needs 1.5 milligrams of magnesium to 1 calcium ratio. And calcium and magnesium have a kind of synergetic but also antagonistic effect. So the more calcium you have in your body, the more magnesium you need. Same with potassium and sodium.
Yeah.
And so it's all about that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need electrolytes, right, because of nerve signals, is that it? Or
so we can think of our body as a computer, right? And I think of water as the actual code, the thing that our body needs in order for this computer to function. And minerals are the kind of electrical signals that allow your body, the code, to actually communicate with your body, which is the computer, right? So electrolytes and minerals are the same thing. Every every water has its own unique composition and profile of minerals, and people try and create the world's perfect water through kind of Frankensteining mineral compositions together, like Smart Water or Body Armor or Essentia, these types, but they're purified tap water that they then have kind of BS filtration processes that really I'm like whatever on. For me, it's trying to find these locations in the world that have the most incredible naturally occurring mineral compositions. And these mineral compositions can be used for specific things, right? So my dream water is very high in magnesium because magnesium promotes relaxation and feeling grounded. And a lot of vegetarians and vegans are really up in the air. You're vegetarian?
Vegan for like a long time.
And so you're operating on a different kind of consciousness. And it's very, very powerful. And there's a reason why many religions practice vegetarianism. And it has its specific use case. I did a whole crazy diet for 2 months where I only ate eggs, butter, and fish.
Whoa, I've never heard of that one.
In preparation for fatherhood. And it was very ethereal in the crown chakra, very spiritual. But then we have to be grounded in some capacity in this earthly dimension. And so, yeah, minerals, we get from food as well. And it's really interesting to kind of think about. Yeah. So yeah, there's water.
All right.
Water in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to promote or plug?
No, no.
I'll plug for you.
Okay.
Follow Parker Day on her socials and check out this new project that she's doing.
Yeah. Go to at Hey Parker Day on Instagram, and then there's a link to the new project.
Yeah.
But Hey Parker Day is my identity.
And we had Seth Coleman, aka Knife Face, aka Nado 5150, Catholic style fighter, on the podcast a couple episodes ago, and Parker recently did a shoot with him. Yeah. So he's on there wearing one of our repurposed religion t-shirts. And I'm going to get you one today, so that reminded me. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope it all recorded since we're doing single cam in LA. So fingers crossed. God, thy will, not ours, be done with the technology.
Right.
Amen. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you all so much. Peace.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
That was great.
So good.